My dearest brothers and sisters, this is Tunia speaking. I love you so very much. Today I would like to share what I consider to be the two most important keys to spiritual growth. There are other things that help or contribute as well, but to me personally, these two things are the most important. These are freedom from illusion and having your needs met. Anyone who has achieved these two things will automatically be a spiritually advanced master. Some people would call this person enlightened, although the word enlightened has many different definitions on your world. In any case, someone who is free from illusions and who has his or her needs met is automatically a very spiritually advanced master. Rational knowledge is not needed, although that may help people get rid of their illusions. Note that Hakann and I are far more focused on trying to help you meet your emotional needs and to encourage you than we are on giving you information. Moral virtue is also not needed, although the personal need of many people is that they are a respected member of a family or community, which may mean that moral people find it easier to grow spiritually. Furthermore, people who are free from illusions tend to freely choose to be kind to others. But still, if you are free of illusions and meet your needs, including your non-hedonistic ones, then you will be a spiritually advanced person even if you lack moral virtue. Healing your old trauma is also not needed, although very likely you will need to do this in order to let go of some illusions. Also, most people have ease of mind as one of their needs, which may require at least a partial healing and an integration of your old pain. Still, healing yourself is not a direct requirement of spiritual growth. It's more a means to get there. Some very spiritually advanced people have mostly but not yet fully healed from their old pain. It's not about blissing out in meditation every day, although meditation helps, and if you can bliss out during meditation, then that is a good sign. It's not about keeping your vibration high. Usually when people try to directly accomplish that, they simply suppress or don't look at things that make them feel bad. That is not the way towards spiritual growth, because then the pain enters the subconscious, and not being in subconscious discomfort is another one of most people's needs. It is not about giving up things or giving up activities or giving up relationships or giving up sex, although an over-attachment to something may stop you from growing spiritually. Instead, fundamentally it's just about being free from illusions and meeting your needs. Some people might disagree with this statement, arguing that the stereotypical enlightened monk doesn't need anything and yet is enlightened. That is true, however, the stereotypical enlightened monk actually does have his or her needs met. This enlightened monk just has little to no needs. This is actually a critical point to make, because if a new spiritual seeker is full of desires, then likely there is a limit to how much he can grow if he does as the enlightened monk does and spends 14 hours per day meditating. That is because while the enlightened monk may have little desires left, the spiritual seeker does, and so giving up a worldly life does not work that well for the spiritual seeker who is full of desire. That is why a good number of spiritual masters spent some time in the normal world fulfilling their desires first, and only then started walking a spiritual path once they had either fulfilled those desires, or realized that chasing those desires did not ultimately make them happy and so those desires left them. Of course, there are spiritual masters who do not fit neatly into the pattern I'm describing. I'm generalizing here. Still, in general, the two most important things are being free from illusion and meeting your needs. So, how do you become free from illusion? Well, rational knowledge can help, but ultimately it's about embodying truth and not about rationally knowing truth. If you know that all is one, but this is not your day-to-day experience, then you're only halfway there. Therefore, practices such as breathing slowly are in our mind more critical than simply accumulating rational knowledge. Frankly, most people would benefit from spending more time breathing slowly and deeply, and spending less time gathering information. Still, there are some pieces of information that we consider to be very helpful to have. These are: all is one. Helping others helps yourself, helping yourself helps others, and harming others harms yourself. You are a reincarnating soul and thus can't ultimately be harmed, so long as you do not sell your soul to demons or commit utterly evil acts, worse than just murdering a few people. Any deity who threatens people with hell and is exclusively masculine is not Source, who is the true creator of the universe. Source loves you unconditionally and is not going to send you to hell even if you commit evil acts. Any evil action that someone commits can be seen, from one perspective, as an expression of confusion and inner pain, because someone who was not confused and not in pain would not harm others, and therefore people deserve unconditional love and understanding, even so-called bad people. Giving so-called bad people unconditional love and understanding is more effective than telling them that they should change their ways. Ideally, don't ever stop loving or judge people, at most judge their actions. And even then, our rule of thumb is to only judge those actions that directly harm another. This also means that you yourself are inherently, automatically good enough. You yourself are infinitely worthy of and deserving of love. There is nothing that you can do that will ever make you unworthy of being loved. Earth is incredibly tough, and if you are receiving this message, then you are almost certainly doing better than most Earth humans, and also you're probably a more resilient and good-hearted soul than most beings, because most beings could not survive and maintain a good heart on Earth. You're not flawed or broken, you're just in a really tough situation, and you're dealing with it better than most. Just like people can automatically heal many physical injuries, so too can most people automatically heal emotional injuries, so long as people don't judge, suppress, or try to change the thoughts and feelings that come up. As described in Hakann's observation path message, we recommend simply observing your thoughts and feelings briefly as they come up, without trying to judge, suppress, or try to change it. Most of the classic spiritual paths and practices on Earth can help you get rid of illusions. We also shared approaches in our messages: Hakann, the observation path, and Hakann, the breathing path. We gently recommend against paths that try to teach you a lot of new concepts, because the fundamental key is stripping away illusions through careful observation and breathing exercises, rather than adding new concepts. If you do something like Hakann's observation path, Hakann's breathing path, and also you meet your needs, then I think you are very well on your way towards great spiritual growth. Let's discuss meeting your needs. This can be anything from a desire for physical things or physical experiences, to a desire for sex, to a desire for rest, to a desire to be seen and loved and appreciated, to a desire to be a valued member of a family or community, to a desire to be free from emotional or physical or subconscious pain, to a desire that you have developed your skills to such an extent that you significantly help the people around you. Sometimes a desire can hide a deeper desire. For example, a desire for a new car might hide a desire to be seen and appreciated. In this case, if you can meet your desire to be seen and appreciated directly, your desire for a new car might fade. That said, maybe the desire for a new car is simply the desire for a new car and there's nothing underneath it. I like having pretty things too. As stated, we recommend meeting your needs so long as others are not directly harmed, even if they are so-called shallow needs. To us, there's not really such a thing as shallow needs. I still love eating delicious food, getting a massage, going on a vacation, having good sex with my husband as well as with other women. This is within our relationship agreement, wearing beautiful or sexy clothing that makes people's heads turn, spending quality time with my children, etc. I'm just not addicted or over-attached to any of those things, and I am not using any of these things to run away from or distract myself from something else, and thus these things do not hinder my own spiritual progress. Sure, people can use, for example, sex as a way to emotionally run away from or distract themselves from certain things. However, to me, giving up sex entirely is a huge overcorrection to the other side. To me, it's a bit like cutting off your arm because your finger is infected. Sure, if a person genuinely doesn't desire to have sex, then don't have it. But for most people, sex is a need that they do have. It just might be helpful to keep in mind the things I said in my previous message, Tunia, how to not get damaged by casual sex. A classic mistake that spiritual seekers make is that they see that a certain spiritual earth master genuinely does not desire sex or having possessions, and so they too stop having sex and give away their possessions. If the spiritual seeker still desires sex or having those possessions, then this is a mistake, because those desires will continue to haunt their subconscious and will limit their spiritual growth. In this case, we recommend just living life and having things and having sex, as well as doing something like Hakann's observation path and Hakann's breathing path on the side to grow spiritually. Then if the spiritual seeker arrives at a place where they genuinely do not desire having sex or having those things anymore, then they can follow the path of that spiritual master and give up having sex and having possessions. The stereotypical enlightened master monk genuinely does not have many desires anymore and spends his time meditating to get rid of illusions. So he fulfills those desires he does have, and he has gotten rid of his illusions, and so he is a master. But if a new spiritual seeker gives away all his desires and goes and spends most of his time meditating on a mountain, then he likely will not get that far, because his subconscious will be hindered by his unmet needs. So, meet your needs. For many people, it will be obvious which area of their life should be worked on, because there is either some crisis or a huge longing. Still, if you are at a place where your life is stable and pretty good, then it can be a good exercise to literally sit down and write out which needs you have, even the so-called shallow or silly ones. Then you can see if there's anything that you still want to meet. And if you are in a relationship, it can be good to communicate this to your partner too. People who do not openly express their needs will usually either accumulate negative emotions, or will eventually try to get their needs met in a manipulative way. Therefore, it is better to just be open to your partner and tell them what your needs are. Earth humans for the most part can't mind read you, so you will have to speak up and stand up for your own needs, as well as the needs of your inner child. Also, do not overlook needs that you may have along the lines of feeling like a productive and valuable member of your community. Emotional safety is another rarely recognized need that is unfulfilled in a lot of people. I discussed that in my previous message, Tunia, romantic relationships. Some people who feel that they are introverted are actually not introverted at all, but the people around them are simply emotionally unsafe. Most people have a need to be seen and loved and accepted as they are. This is a beautiful desire. 2 important steps to fulfilling this are: first, finding someone who is actually mostly emotionally safe. Mostly emotionally safe people are actually quite rare on Earth, unfortunately. And the second step is actually being genuine and open towards this person. If you don't show who you are, old bruises and so-called flaws and all, then the other person can't appreciate you for who you are, but at the same time, showing yourself to a person who is not mostly emotionally safe may do more harm than good. Some people at this point would say that you shouldn't need other people. Now, there are indeed some solo practices that can help, such as journaling. However, for the vast majority of people, one of their needs is having good people around them. Most people are wired to be social beings, after all, and this too is nothing to be ashamed of. So, in summary, the 2 primary keys for spiritual growth, in my mind, are freedom from illusions and meeting your needs. 2 excellent paths to acquiring freedom from illusion are Hakann's observation path and Hakann's breathing path. And in most cases, the solution to having a need is simply meeting it. For most people, it's best to work both on attaining freedom from illusions and on meeting their needs, at the same time, even if you only spend a few minutes each day on breathing deeply or on observing your thoughts and emotions. I love you so very much, and you have my very best wishes. Tunia.